Okay, we're on in three, two, one. Hello, I'm Alan Rule from alanrule.com, and with me today I'm joined by three fellow apologists, Louis Dizon, Steven Tilley, and Steven Atkins, and we're going to be talking about the debate that um, Steven Atkins had with Ijaz Ahmad. Do you guys briefly want to introduce yourself? Start with you, Louis.
Hi, so my name is Louis, and I'm an apologist who's been dealing with comparative religion issues for the better part of 12 years. And one of my main areas of focus is Christianity and Islam. And I've known Steven since 2010. We've done a lot of apologetics related stuff together, so we're both versed in this field, and also we both know Ijaz personally because we visit his mosque once in a while.
I'm just curious, is that the same mosque as Shabir Ali?
Yep. Yes. The one at Lauren Dufferin in downtown Toronto.
Okay. And Steven Tilley, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Steven. I'm an eclectic person, and I'm studying and doing apologetics roughly a little over 10-ish years. Studied stuff like ancient Near East, early Christianity, and etc. And been doing that and known Lewis for a good couple years, and we shared pretty much the same views, particularly in the apologetics field. Dealt with Islam and various other religious topics, and that's been pretty much it.
All right, Steven Atkins, do you want to introduce?
My name is Steven Atkins. I've been doing some work for almost forever now. And I've known Louis since he was in high school. I think when you said maybe grade 12, go for glory.
Just finished with high school at the time.
Yeah, so I've known Louis a long time, and we've had our differences over the years, but he's just a brilliant person. I am the one who he's my go-to guy when I want to find out information with it. I want to say that, and I've known Ijaz online for probably about 4 or 5 years, maybe personally about 3. I will say that he's knowledgeable. He's knowledgeable, and he's got a good memory. Okay.
So Stephen Atkins, what did you think of the arguments he used in the debate? It sounds like you weren't expecting it.
Okay. No, I'll tell you. One of the difficulties that I do have is basically I have a visual impairment, and so I have to very often read my notes. If I don't read my notes, I forget. But I felt the information in my opening presentation. I thought it was good, but the delivery really could improve. So I'm going to be talking to people like you and other people on how to improve the delivery so that it flows a lot easier and it's more well organized. So that is one of my weaknesses. I had that basically in my debate with Shabir. Again, I thought the information was good, but it was basically the delivery and feeling more at ease regarding that. Now, as far as the what I wasn't expecting was basically Hijaz's approach. My personal opinion is he throws so much out there that he hopes and seeing what's going to stick and what's not. The other thing too is, and you guys will know this, does he pick like I was unaware of some of the people he was mentioning, uh, and I don't know if that's a common trick of his, but it seems like he picks people who, at least to my understanding, are fairly obscure or has written a paper, someplace, and it's just been read by a few people that he's in his research stumbled across it. But I may be mistaken in that. Uh, and I like to say, I'm still vague on exactly how does he look at a historical event, or how does he come to the conclusions that he's read, considering these people don't come to the same conclusions that he did. And I pointed that out in the debates that like when he was quoting Gary Habermas, I'm aware of, and Michael Lacone, I know who those people are, but he was quoting them and trying to refute refute my arguments, but they come to my conclusion about the historicity of the crucifixion. They don't come to his. So I don't know. To me, those things are confusing.
Okay.
You're
Like, just some thoughts about how the debate unfolded. So first of all, to address the whole public speaking thing, that's something that you learn as you go along. Like, nobody's an expert at it the first time around. You just have to keep doing it a lot. And by the time you've done it plenty of times, you become like adept at speaking off the cuff. You remember your lines more easily. You're less glued to your notes, and you're less easily like caught off guard by things that you didn't expect. Like, doing a couple of debates is good because that means that you have a little bit of that experience now. But you just got to do even more of it, and then you eventually get used to it. You don't like have the same weaknesses as before. Now, getting on to some of the content of the debate. Most of the names that were thrown out there, I think, are pretty well as far as the field of like historical Jesus studies goes. So Bart Ehrman is well known, Gary Habermas is well known, Michael Lacone is well known. There's a few less well-known names that are thrown in there, but I definitely recognized, at the very least, the commentary sets that he cites. For example, Hermenea is a well-known and well-respected commentary series.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Hermenea. So it's a commentary series. So they put out like several volumes of commentaries on the Bible as well as other early literature, such as the Church Fathers and like Second Temple Jewish literature. So even if you don't know the author of an individual volume, you should at least know about the commentary series. I've used Hermenea quite a bit in my own like biblical studies. That's why I'm familiar with that. They're also great for like extra biblical literature, such as the Book of Enoch. Now that being said, like I'm just curious about the way Ijaz like tries to differentiate between the methodology of the historians and the conclusions of the historians. Because one of the things that he said quite a few times in his rebuttal to you is that, well, I accept the methodology of the historians. I don't necessarily agree with the conclusions they arrive at. But how, like, granted, it's always possible that the same methodology can yield a different conclusion depending on how you apply it. But I'm not entirely sure how that's the case in this specific scenario, because I don't see how the methodology of the historians being cited will yield any other conclusion other than that Jesus' crucifixion did occur. And even Ijaz himself, you listen to what he says in the Q&A period when asked about the probability of the crucifixion happening. He says, in his own words, that from strictly secular historical criteria, the crucifixion is a highly probable event. And the only reason why you might believe that it didn't happen is because of considerations that go beyond mere probability, which he doesn't quite say it, but we know in this case it would be his Islamic presuppositions.
Exactly, and it was clear. And I pointed that out to him, but apparently it doesn't matter with these guys. Oh, by the way, I Jaffa, one of not Mustafa here in Toronto, another Mustafa, they uploaded basically President that I said, and of course, they said I got trounced with only his opening statement regarding that. So this is the type of the shenanigans that we're dealing with.
Lewis, I've got a question for you. Do you know if Ijaz subscribes to Shabir Ali's modified swoon theory?
You know what? I have asked Ijaz for his opinion a few times on the topic, and you might recall that Steven has also asked the same question in the debate, and it doesn't look like he has definitively stated his view on the topic, which is an observation that I've made a few times, which is that Ijaz doesn't definitively come down on any specific theory regarding what exactly happened. The only thing that he says we know for sure is that the crucifixion didn't happen.
Well, I think that's awfully shallow of him not
I like to
to.
hear from Steve Tilley.
Oh, sorry.
I like to hear from Steven Tilley. Did you hear it?
He says he takes a methodological neutral position, and that's extremely vague. What do you mean by that? Do you believe that he didn't die and crucified? Like methodologically, you're accepting that the premises of the historians in regard to probability supports that he was crucified, but you're rejecting the conclusion. What is your rationale behind that? And what do you mean you're methodologically neutral? What does that mean? You're in a debate. The topic is, was Christ crucified? That's a debate topic of history. In a debate topic of history, you have to rely on historical method and its conclusion. If you're going to argue the negative, you have a burden to justify the position, just as Steven Atkins here has a burden to justify his positive affirmation of that.
Well, and the second Ijaz comes down on a certain position, his method is going to be applied to it. So I think he tried really hard to hide what he thinks happened. Like, and this is something I want to point out. In the last few years, I've been watching a lot of debates on the crucifixion. There's Shabir Ali, there's Zakir Hussain, there's Adnan Rashid, and now Ijaz Ahmed, and they argue against the crucifixion in completely different ways.
Yep. I mean, it's not a secret that the Islamic apologetics community is internally divided on how to treat the crucifixion. So, like the majority viewpoint, as you know, is the substitution theory, which is that somebody else was crucified in Jesus' place. The swoon theory is, a smaller viewpoint, but it's gaining some ground. And then there is another interpretation that says, well, Quran isn't necessarily denying Jesus' crucifixion at all. And there's more than a few Islamic scholars who are willing to interpret it that way. But those are the people who are least inclined to actually debate against Christianity at a Islamic level. I can name, for example, a colleague of mine. His name is Khalil Landani. He just finished a PhD in Islamic Studies at Harvard University, and he's done
So guys, let me misquote him because I made reference to him. Let me misquote him because was accused of lying by somebody on that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, the thing about Khalil is he's an Ismaili Muslim, so he's not an Orthodox, like Sunni Muslim. However, that shouldn't invalidate his views because he's a very incisive
They,
scholar.
they accused me of misquoting him.
Well,
You didn't bring in.
like, I don't think that's the case because it's very easy to pull up the article that Khalil wrote, and it's also easy to pull up the lectures that he did on YouTube on this topic, and it's really easy to see that this is what he said. I've had personal conversations with him on this very topic where he says the Quran does not deny that Jesus was crucified. And of course, Khalil isn't the only one who says this. There are a number of scholarly sources that say the exact same thing. For example, I have in my hand the book The Crucifixion and the Quran, which is written by Todd Lawson. He used to he used to teach at the University of Toronto. So I actually took courses under him. I even have his signature on this book. And he says, I should pull up this quote here. It's in page 12 of the Crucifixion and the Quran. I just want to read it out loud to you guys. Quote, as we shall see below, John the Damascus interpretation of the Quran account is in fact unjustifiable. The Quran itself only asserts that the Jews did not crucify Jesus. This is obviously different from saying that Jesus was not crucified. It then goes on to say, the Quranic exegesis of verse 4:157 is by no means uniform. The interpretations range from an outright denial of the crucifixion of Jesus to a simple affirmation of the historicity of the event, unquote. And that's not the only one. I also have the study Quran that was edited by Syed Hussein Nasser, and in his commentary on Surah 4:157, it says right here, it is important to note that here the critique is not aimed directly at belief in Christ's crucifixion and death, but rather at the Jews' claim to have killed him. And then he goes on to list a number of possible interpretations of this verse, showing that there is no one uniform way of understanding Surah 4:157.
I'm just curious. In that book, the study Quran is. Does he acknowledge swoon theory as an option?
Let me see. Like, it's not to my knowledge. Like, he primarily focuses on the substitution theory because that's the majority report amongst some scholars. And then he talks about variations of the substitution theory, like the different theories about who the substitute might have been. But there isn't much mention about swoon. And I think the reason for that is because the swoon theory is a relatively recent phenomenon. So that's a theory that emerged in German higher critical circles around the 19th century, and then it was picked up by the Ahmadiyya sect around the same time. And then somehow it found its way into Sunni, Orthodox Sunni Muslim apologetics. I believe Ahmad was the first person to use a version of it.
Tell me, does it touch on basically that the person could, believe that Jesus died and rose again on the third day and still be a Muslim? That's sugarcoated. I said twice now.
I mean, like, I know many Muslims who are willing to say something along those lines. So Shabir Ali isn't alone in that regard. As for Syed Hussein Nasser, I have no idea where he comes down on that. But knowing Syed Hussein Nasser, I think he's the sort of person who would want to include the broadest range of possible interpretations. So just knowing his general methodology when it comes to interpretations of the Quran, he'd probably be inclined to accept that as a legitimate interpretation.
So,
And Louis and I, okay, you gonna say something?
No. You can go.
No, this came up during the Q&A, Lewis came into the picture where he asked me whether Lewis was, I'd been talking to Lewis or working with Lewis, or maybe he thought you were in the room with me. But, and I did not answer him directly. I just said I used a number of sources, but I think, like, I'm trying to crawl inside his mind. Oh, by the way, Lewis, but anyways, I said, I used both, I'll tell you the people that I went, my two people that I go-to guys were Samuel Green and Lewis. They were the two go-to guys. I went to John McClatchy once, and really didn't find them all that helpful. And then Clint, who was basically just more for moral support, and Greg Armstrong a bit. But,
I don't think it's a secret that I was doing research to help Steven with the debate.
well, so what?
Yeah, like
I mean, I don't claim to know everything. The thing is that, with the material out there, I did my own research. I just said, Lewis, where can I go for this? Or, and we talked.
So here's the thing with me, right? I'm a student at the University of Toronto. I have access to the libraries. So what I primarily did was I went through the archives of the University of Toronto, pulled up all of the books that I thought would be relevant to this discussion, and then I took them out of the library and went to Steven and had him read them on his own. So, like my role in preparing him for this debate was primarily like doing the bibliography, like finding the relevant sources, and then he did the reading himself.
Steven Tilley.
Well, something. Well, I guess primarily, well, in regards to you just questioning Steven about what is he getting his information from Lewis, I fail to see how that's even relevant to begin with. Because where the origin of the source that you're deriving this from is irrelevant to the substance of the claim. So Ijaz is guilty of the genetic fallacy in that instance.
Now oh, sorry.
I can think of one possible motivation I have for bringing it up, because if you remember in the context of that debate, there were a few times when Ijaz like pointed out your lack of training in humanities, in Arabic, in Islamic studies, etc. So I think a lot of it has to do with like casting doubt on your ability to competently discuss those issues. And I think the reason why my name came up is because I do know how to read Arabic, and I'm studying Islamic studies at a PhD level in a top research university. So I'm the sort of person who would be able to address all those sorts of issues with way more competence. So he probably thinks that the critiques of Islamic position are basically parroting the stuff I might say. I mean, I have my own viewpoints, and sometimes Stephen agrees with my views, and sometimes he doesn't, because we're individual human beings.
Just to make
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Steven.
well, Stephen Atkins, lack of physical accreditation or training in those particular areas that you mentioned, Lewis. I fail to see how that still has anything to do with whether the substance of his claims were true or not. Because pointing out those imperfections of Stephen on his end to try to discredit what he says, that's really just poisoning the well in that instance, and that is fallacious on Ijaz.
I think consistent if you consider the fact that he doesn't have a humanities degree either. and nor formal theological training. A lot of it is like stuff that he studied for himself. So, what's good for the gander, I suppose.
Well, not only that, but there have been numerous instances where Ijaz quotes some of his sources out of context and misrepresents what they say. So that
Yeah.
A Muslim apologist quoting something out of context? What? When did this come out?
Like, I'll give you an example, okay? So, like, the topic came up about Surah 355 and whether mutawafika can be understood to mean I have caused you to die. Now, okay, so I have knowledge of Arabic, and so I could speak to this issue with a greater level of competency, and I can vouch for the fact that tuwfiya in its normal meaning means to cause to die. Right? That is the normative use of that word. Right? Is that could you interpret it to mean something else? Sure. Like you can interpret it to mean like cause to fall asleep, and there is an instance of that in the Quran. But we know that that's what it means because it qualifies it. Like if you just say tufiya in like a normal Arabic discussion without any kind of qualifier, like it's naturally understood to mean he died or she died. Right? Even to this day, Arabs, if they want to make note of the fact that somebody passed away, they would say "Tuwfiya," he died or he was taken. Right? Steven Tilley knows a little bit of Arabic. He can vouch for that.
sure.
Yes. And it's not particularly advanced Arabic either. I'm pretty sure they teach it in like second year Arabic. They did it in UT.
I'm curious. Is Ijaz? I don't know him personally, but is he a native Arabic speaker?
He's Trinidadian, so I would say no. Like, he knows some Arabic. I don't know how well he is, because I haven't really seen him do like in-depth exegesis of Arabic. But I would imagine he could at least read the text and know like basic Quranic vocabulary. But
So
that's pretty unremarkable as far as Muslims go, because most Muslims know that stuff.
okay. So he has impress. Well, I suppose he does apologetics, so he probably knows a bit more than the average Muslim. But
Yeah. But like, not like at the level of someone who took like 4 years of Arabic, which is a number of years that they make you do it in UT in order to really understand the language.
how many languages do you speak, Lewis?
Goodness, English, Tagalog, French, Spanish, German, um, Arabic, Greek, Hebrew, Latin,
Fluently?
not all the same level. Like, I can do English, Tagalog, Spanish, and French really well. Like, my German is pretty crap. Latin, like, I can recite the rosary in Latin, and I can follow along with the Trinity Mass, so that's something. Like, biblical languages are pretty good. My Arabic, I did all 4 years of Arabic instruction at UT, so I'm at the advanced level. But mind you, even at an advanced level, Arabic is still difficult to grasp. They say you need to do 2,200 hours of Arabic practice to really get a grasp of the language, which is like 5 times the amount you would need to learn Spanish.
It also depends on the dialect of Arabic that you're learning as well.
Yeah, but I think in this context, we would primarily be sticking to Fusha Arabic, because that's what the Quran is written in, that's what all of the important theological literature is written in, and, the dialects are not really used for theological discourse.
Okay. I want to just. It seemed like the only argument, like he went into all this method stuff, the only argument where he actually seemed like he was trying to make a point was when he was talking about, well, Q precedes the Gospels, and Q doesn't talk about the crucifixion, resurrection, etc.
But the Q is a sayings gospel.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's not meant to have a narrative, right? It would be like saying that, the closest parallel we have to Q is the Gospel of Thomas, right? Thomas doesn't have a passion narrative either, but that's because Thomas is a sayings gospel. It's only meant to record the sayings of the man, not his life story.
Well, and the Q tradition has never existed independently of the Lucan or Matthean tradition. So I mean, to try to like divorce it and put it against each other.
And like, there's also the fact that the Gospel of Mark is there. Mark is considered the oldest of the four Gospels. Most people do anyway. Mark in priority is not a hill I die on, but it's something that I
Connect to somehow.
argument. And I think even if you presuppose Mark in priority, what is missing in the Markan account? Like, it's got the crucifixion, it's got a resurrection, it's got Jesus predicting his death 3 times before the crucifixion. Like, what more do you need?
And Mark 10:45, which basically gives theological atonement meaning for the upcoming death.
Yeah, like, if we were to, for the sake of argument, reject all of the later Gospels and go just by the Gospel of Mark, you would still have a fully fleshed passion account.
Well, let me say something. How I would argue if I were arguing for the crucifixion, I wouldn't even go the Gospels. I'd go St. Paul. That's just me.
Yes, that's what Louis and I, we discussed that for a long time. And do you think I made a mistake by, because you and I discussed that for a long time. We went over that.
Yeah, it's true. Like, if you were to go by, like, chronological dating of books of the Bible, like, St. Paul's letters are the earliest. No question about that. And if you go by, like, Galatians, 1 Corinthians, like, those precede the Gospels, I think. And those all have mention of the crucifixion. But I think that, to reiterate what has already been said, Paul explicitly states in his letters that this is something he received that was passed on to him.
Yeah. I did bring that up. I did bring that basically towards the end of the debate. I did bring that up, but Louis and I, we talked about that, went over the material, with it, and it was.
And here's the thing: if you want to assert that the crucifixion was a fabrication, then whoever fabricated it must have preceded St. Paul and must have fed it to St. Paul. Now, who are the likely culprits for such a fabrication?
Who aren't
Well,
Muslims.
one thing I tried to do was when.
By the way, on that discuss, point one thing out. Going back to the study Quran, according to some of the early Mufassirin, it's not just the Jews who thought that Jesus died; it was Jesus' disciples. And
yes.
I believe it was At-Tabari. Okay, so it was At-Tabari right here. It says that, let me quote it. Because most accounts indicate that it appeared not only to the Jews, but also to all or most Christians that Jesus had been killed, At-Tabari argues that no blame or accusations of dishonesty can be leveled at Christians who believe in Jesus' crucifixion. So, according to At-Tabari, one of the earliest Mufassirin, commenting on Surat An-Nisa, the reason why the crucifixion story propagated amongst the Christians is because even Jesus' disciples thought they saw the crucifixion happen.
So according to El Tabari, the immediate the earthly disciples of Christ were snowed as well.
Um, yeah, so apparently the like according to the note given in the study Quran, which points to Tabari's tafsir, that was his view that the Christians, the early Christians, Jesus' disciples, were also among those to whom it seemed that Jesus died. Like they saw something that they interpreted to be Jesus dying on the cross, and on the basis of what they saw, they thought he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also says in the Quran, I should concern off the top of my head, Jesus' disciples will be made utmost against their enemies. The only form of Christianity that really conquered the Roman Empire, or that withstood the enemies, was Pauline Christianity. So, and Lewis, what you said about the crucifixion being a fabrication. Now, unless early Christians were meant to infiltrate the Roman Empire and Roman historians, as well as Jewish ones who were hostile to them, that is a purely unrealistic assumption to hold to.
Yeah. Like I think the explanation that most Muslims have given to me whenever I bring this topic up is that well, God made Jesus' disciples prevail politically over the Jews. That doesn't necessarily mean that he rubber stamps their theology as well. So it's quite possible that the disciples were misled about Jesus' death and resurrection, but God still aided them in spite of that, according to that narrative.
Well, that's I don't know at that point. I don't know. That's just so confusing because he's promoting a false belief, Allah. Like he's on top of that. These people believed in the Trinity and believed in other things uh, that Islam denies. Right? These people didn't believe in a document called the Injil or whatever. They didn't believe in a prophet to come named Ahmad, who is prophesied word for word in the Quran in Surah, I think 61 offhand. Yeah, 61 verse 6. And yeah, I don't know, just a minefield of problems.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not. That's, sorry, go to.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, first of all, I don't know whether my connection is bad or not, but this seems to be breaking up quite a bit for me. But Louis, I was going to, the next time I do this, what I want you to do, especially if you're going to be, if I'm going to do it with Ijaz, I want to role play, and I'm going to ask you to go into a very dark place. Well, I want
I mean, I'm gonna do my best.
you to,
Well, I mean, on this topic,
I'm
it's
already,
okay.
Yeah, Steven, next time you go in a debate like this with Ijaz, remind him if it's done in something that's a historical basis, remind him he's participating in this debate as even arguing the negation, hence he has the burden to justify that negation. If he's going to say, well, I'm neutral on this, what he's doing is being dishonest. He's trying to keep the burden of proof completely on you, not him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he threw a whole bunch of sand up in the air.
Yeah, well, that's what this is what I don't have a big background in humanities. I've got more theological, formal theological training than he does, but I don't have, obviously, I don't have a degree in anything. What I've observed that what the John does is he throws as much dust there, as much mud against the wall, sees what's stick. So if you don't answer it, so you didn't answer my question, therefore you lose. And you can't I think, I'll tell you the mistakes I made. I think I made, the mistakes I made basically was in agreeing to the way the topic was worded. The next time, I do something like this would be is, does the Quran teach that Jesus was not crucified?
Yeah. Now, see, the funny thing about framing the debate that way is that, well, first
You
of
would
all, it's
do
more
it.
narrow debate topic than simply debating crucifixion in general. Second, like, that puts all of the biblical stuff off the table because, you know, you're purely arguing what the Islamic sources teach at that point. And as a consequence of that, that would put the
Okay,
Christian
it's
side
a good point.
on the Muslim side on the defensive.
How would you phrase it?
Well, you know, my general thesis when it comes to Surah 4157 is that it's an unclear verse and no one has any idea what it actually means. Like, all of my arguments basically come down to that conclusion.
Well, I should say this is something and I brought this up in our chat on Facebook, that the Quran narrates the really stupid story about Adam and Iblis 7 times, but it only talks about the crucifixion one time in an extremely vague way where we have no idea what's going on. Although it does deny it, pretty much all the secondary details are basically up for grabs.
Yeah. By the way, it gets worse once you toss the hadith into the picture because I've looked for hadiths in all of the Sahih Sitta sources that have some bearing on Surah 157, and I've never found any. Like, I found, like, hadiths where Muhammad will, like, explain various parts of the Quran. Like, he will expand on unclear verses. He will delve into the minutiae of general precepts found in the Quran. But when it comes to explaining what Surah 157 says, I've not seen any of these in any of the Sahih Sitta sources where Muhammad explains what that verse means.
It's because Muhammad didn't know either.
Yeah. Whatever topic I have, whatever topic comes up with, I may ask Lewis to do a role play. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll do my best. I mean, I'm not very good at imitating a Trinidadian accent, so give it a shot.
Well, guys, I don't know
No,
if role play. Well, I don't know if role play for this topic would be a good idea because, as I pointed out, there are so many different ways Muslim apologists approach this. Like, if the topic was, is Jesus God in the flesh, Muslims pretty much argue the same thing. Like, there may be a few extra verses here, but like, compared what Shabir Ali says to Adnan Rashid, Zakir Hussein, that they all argue this completely different ways. Like, I had no idea where Ijaz was going to go on this one.
I think that of all of them, the one with the most intellectual integrity is Shabir. I think
Yeah.
that when Shabir explains his position, he's the one who gives the most nuance. He's the one that acknowledges the ambiguities, and he will, he's the only Muslim apologist that I've heard to date who affirms that that Surah 157 allows for an interpretation that he's really good by his king.
Yes, and like I said, I like Shabir. On a personal level, I like him.
And like it seems because of the historical consensus, and you could say this about a lot of Christian Muslim topics. It's not like what does the evidence say. It's kind of like how do we get around it. And you do got to give Shabir credit. He at least posits a consistent theory, and he tries to use the sources at his disposal to try to fit it in so it's not absurd. Yes, Jesus made it to the cross, but he was taken down, received no medical attention, and somehow got out of it. I don't know. What do you think, Stephen? Steve Tilley.
Um, I highly don't see that being realistic because Roman soldiers, are when a non-Roman citizen or Roman subject is condemned to death of crucifixion, the duty of the soldier is to make sure their victims stay dead. Otherwise, they're going to die in their place if the victim themselves crucifixion somehow escapes.
Actually, there's a throwaway line. I vividly remember this.
Luce, is it possible you could speak more directly into your microphone?
Sorry, how about this?
Sure.
Hear me properly now? Okay, so, this actually reminds me of something that Shamir said a long, long time ago, and I completely forgot about it until now. But it was a throwaway line that he gave around early 2014. The context was he was in a dialogue with John Dominic Crossan at a lecture at U of T, and the topic was about the life of Christ. And at one point, Shabir Ali says, well, we're not sure that Jesus died at the cross, perhaps he died in the tomb. And then Henry's like, wait a minute, did he just say that perhaps Jesus died in the tomb? Like, that's a very interesting interpretation of the...
You know, he told me that because I just heard that a couple of days ago, and it may have been for you.
Okay, so, like, I'm gonna go back to the audio because I think it's still up on YouTube, but it's a discussion between Shabir Ali and John Dominic Crossan around at U of T in early 2014. So I'm giving the details out there so anybody who wants to check it out for themselves can verify what I'm saying. But it's there in the audio.
Listen, I want to thank you guys. My connection is not good. I appreciate the feedback. It actually was quite encouraging, and you know, encouraged me to go on with this because, like, after I found I found that I was totally exhausted, especially after talking to the audience afterwards. I was really, out of it and tired, and I had a headache, and I like I said, I put up a very quick thing on the I got from Chris. Really was a bit discouraged with it, but I really appreciate feedback. That's what I needed. Was very positive. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing and helping out, and I hope that I did get a note from Ijaz this morning asking if that he'd like to do another debate sometime. Hasn't talked on it. Maybe just as part of it, what do you think would be a good topic?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that grand old debate, what does the Islamic tradition actually say about the Bible?
Yeah, that'd be a fun one to argue.
Oh, is the Bible corrupted?
Yeah, specifically there's the Islamic tradition piece of that, because if you recall, I debated on that exact topic 4 years ago.
That's something maybe you should do us. I don't know that I feel, that I could, because that's more of a,
Like, perhaps we could do a redux, like, revisit the issues again and see if anything new comes up that didn't come up 4 years ago.
but,
Or how about this one? Is the Jesus of the Quran historical?
yeah.
I think that in general, like, it's good to bring up debates where, like, Christians are the ones on the offensive and Muslims are on the defensive, because that's where you can really put the feet of the Muslim apologists to the fire.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, and to Kenny Bomer's credit, he did do this. He put cross-examination in. Like, so many Muslim Christian debates I see don't have cross examination. So I'm glad that was part of the format. So
Yeah, Kenny seems like a nice guy. Like, I haven't interacted with him a whole lot, but he seems like a fair, reasonable moderator.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any problems with the way he handled that. Anyways, Louis, be in touch with you. Will you be around tomorrow morning? Okay, good. How early? I get up I'm up about by 7:30. Sometimes 7. Do I see the tail of a dog wagging in the background there?
What? What's that in the background?
Never mind. Oh, it's just someone waving at them. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
God bless the
Yeah,
Oh.
guys, I really appreciate your help.
So, what do you think? Uh, so it sounds like Kenny Bomer's going to have some big name apologetics on, like Shabir Ali, and he says Zakir Naik. I don't think Zakir Naik's big for substance, but he's big for recognition. Like, most people know who he is. But
Think about it. Zakir Naik is to Muslims what Camp Movement is for younger creationists. It's very surface level.
they're just a good orator, or well, Zakir Naik, I would even question his oration skills, but um,
Uh, he knows how to make a good sales pitch to the wayward and ignorant, to put it mildly.
apparently Sam Shamoon, who I've had quite a bit of correspondence with, has debated Zakir Naik, like not in a formal setting, but like in person.
Really? I don't remember this.
Yeah, no, he told me he debated
What?
it in a, I believe it was a study room in a library at the University of Chicago. I don't know. But, like, it's not recorded. He says if only he had recorded it.
Well, that's very unfortunate. I guess that's one of those things that will only live on in our narrations of the event. So make sure you keep those chains of narration going, guys.
Well, and thankfully in this day and age, most people have smartphones, right? They can record what goes on. Maybe you couldn't do that as well in 2000.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Also, it's a library.
yeah, no, but in my opinion, though, I just want to get back to the cross examination thing. If there's no cross examine, it's really not a debate, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just two lectures being juxtaposed against each other.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, it's if without cross-examination, like it's difficult to really nail down what the person's epistemology on their position is. So yeah, Kenny Bonner did have he did a good service by including that in this format.
Yeah, for sure. Just a question that Ijaz used in the cross examination. I'm trying to remember this, but he kind of stumped Steven Atkins on this. But he said he says Paul wasn't converted by evidence. So if
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I remember that one.
okay, let's talk about that.
See, like, I already knew what I would have said if I had been in Steven's place. So, first of all, I'm trying to figure out what exactly was the point of that question. Like, is he implying that perhaps Paul thought that the crucifixion didn't really happen, but was persuaded to go along with it anyway for other reasons? I don't think that's necessarily the point, but I think this is how I understand the question, and this is how I would respond to it. So, basically, humans are not computers, right? So it's not just you have to be fed the right information and they're going to respond accordingly. I think the perfect example of that is that we can have highly educated individuals come to completely opposite conclusions based on the same evidence. So, like, look at any debate where two religions are duking it out. Like, you could have two highly competent scholars still come away with different conclusions. And I think in the case of Paul, like, I don't know what the level of knowledge he had was. Like how much did he know about the life of Jesus before the Damascus Road experience? We're not exactly told, right? The Book of Acts is very clear on that. All we know is that Paul was very zealous about the tradition that he grew up in and wanted to defend that at any cost. Like, maybe he didn't know anything about the Christians other than that they were a heretical group. Like, I think a lot of us react that way when we're encountering a new sect for the first time. Before we even begin to know what this new sect is all about, we immediately raise the alarm bell to shoot first and ask questions later. And I can believe that that's probably what happened with St. Paul.
Yeah, well, that's my question is, like, how does Ijaz know what evidence Paul had in front of him while he was persecuting the Christians? And then he obviously met with James with Peter and James later, and then they probably would have shown him the evidence then. But he had a miraculous conversion. No one's going to deny that.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, right, that St. Paul didn't know about the crucifixion and the resurrection and heard the stories and wasn't convinced by it, right? There could be any number of reasons why that's the case. And they don't necessarily have to be intellectual. Like, just read the Bible. Like, people saw miracles all the time, and they were still rebelling against God. Like, the Israelites saw Moses part the Red Sea, and they were still grumbling in the desert.
Worshipping the calf, yeah.
Ahab and Jezebel saw fire come down and consume Elijah's offering, and they still insisted on Baal worship. So it's not out of the question, from a biblical worldview, that St. Paul might have been presented with irrefutable evidence that Jesus died and rose again, and he just didn't care because he was convinced of his own traditions and was prepared to uphold them at all costs.
And to add to that, we're hardwired to be very resistant to change, especially when we have evidence presented to us that contradicts our beliefs. So it's also partially because we're very irrational by nature.
I think it was Psychology Today that put out an article where it said that most people's views on religion and politics aren't actually based on evidence. Like, people can look at evidence that completely refutes their worldview, and they will find some way to rationalize it in the context of what they already believe.
Well, like, let me give you an example. Like, for example, I've been studying apologetics for over 10 years, and if I debate a Muslim or a Mormon or who else, I'm going to win. I don't think I've ever lost a debate with a Muslim, certainly not in person. I've never lost a debate with a Mormon either. But, like, it's not like they say, "Oh, I guess you showed me up, now I'm going to join your side," like that.
I think anyone who has converted from one belief system to another can, sympathize in this case. Like, for a fact that I was a Protestant for many years before I became Catholic, right? Now, I looked into Catholic versus Protestant debates for many years before I crossed the Tiber, and there were plenty of instances where the evidence for Catholicism was staring me in the face, and it's a massive neon signpost telling me Catholicism is true, and I insisted on being Protestant. So I know what it's like to be in that position, because I've been there. It takes an act of God to really, get you to realize what is that evidence actually saying and where is it leading to. And I think in the case of St. Paul, it took Jesus personally intervening in Damascus Road to make him realize that.
You got anything to say about that, Steven?
From my experience,
I mean, I don't know, like, because I've been a Catholic my whole life. I'm not a convert. Are you a convert, or?
to give some background, I was part of the Messianic Jewish movement for a little bit, and it was not an easy transition for me to leave from that. It took some theological, because it took a lot to really get me to finally break off, at least from the specific part that I was in. It took it looking at Protestant theology a little further, because in relevance to the law, I was like, okay, yeah, this doesn't really fit. And then I went to Calvinism, and I was so convinced that it was correct, because it presented the sovereignty of God and the guarantee of salvation. And later on, I guess you could say God, through some very significant figures as of lately, that pretty much dismantled John Calvin's theology, mainly from the New Testament as well as the Old Testament, but also the more deeper theological history, particularly in the Old Testament, as well as New Testament, and the patristics, all through that idea completely under the bus that Calvinism is optional as a soteriology. So now I'm more an eclectic Protestant. Basically, I just take the good from Catholicism, Protestantism, and Eastern Orthodox, and just leave out the bad.
That's fair. Like, bringing it back to debate, like, I can actually sort of see this at work with Ijaz.
Wait, can you speak more into your microphone? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to bring it back to debate, right? And looking at Ijaz from the perspective of the discussions we've had along like Christianity and Islam, like I'm not going to deny he knows a lot of stuff. He's well read. He knows the scholarly literature, right? At the same time, like I feel like there's a disconnect between what he knows and what he professes. Like you can see from the fact that even he will say that, from a secular historical perspective, crucifixion is highly probable. So what that tells me is that he recognizes where the facts lead, and it doesn't lead to Islam. It leads to Christian faith, or at the very least, it leads to an affirmation of the crucifixion. But you don't have to be Christian to believe that. You can be an atheist agnostic like Martyr to believe that. And he doesn't want that to, influence his worldview, so he finds a way to compartmentalize this fact with, what he believes as Muslim. So that very act of, believing something in the face of the historical facts is exactly what I see going on. And that debate shows it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you were to corner him and press him on it, why he refuses to accept, he says obviously why he rejects it. It's because he's himself, he's Muslim, and he rejects it, but he acknowledges that this is what the Quran says and what the historical data says. So, as in, he compartmentalizes it. But the question is, okay, you're accepting that this is what the evidence is, but why, what is your reason for rejecting it? Is it warranted and is it justified?
there's something I noticed about Ijaz. Uh, I know that back, I started following Christian Islamic apologetics in about 2008, so about 12 years. And then, and a lot of them were big into the whole textual criticism as part of their apologetics. And then eventually, most of them stopped doing that because they found that it was a dead end. But it seems like Ijaz is the only person that has stuck with it, and he's really trying to make it his focus. Like he brought up in the Stephen Atkins debate. He also brought up in his live stream on EF Dawa that he he brought up in his live stream on EF Dawa that the verses that remain that talk about the crucifixion are found in manuscript evidence on the 4th century. And of course, in terms of Luke and John, he quotes a fringe scholar trying to push those gospels back. But yeah, he seems like the only apologist who's wedded to this method.
Well, I'm not even sure about some of the verses not being around till the 19th century. Like, I don't remember which specific passage he's referring to. I cannot for the life of me think of any specific passage from any of the passion narratives found in the four Gospels where that logic could apply because
Microphone, you're sounding faint. Yep.
yeah. So, like, we have photographs of some of the major hospitals from the first century. Right? They even have a facsimile of some of them. And looking up Codex Sinaiticus, particularly, because it's readily available. And just looking at it, like, we have it, the text of. Okay, so the Passion Narrative of John is right here.
Well, that's 4th century though. Like he'll just say that's 4th century, so that proves his point. I'm talking about P66 and P75. That's Luke and John, right?
Yeah. I was thinking primarily in terms of this claim that they're not from the 19th century. So I don't have to go to the second or even the third century. Like, I think the major hospitals are not this one. But to your point, yes, we can go earlier than the major hospitals. Like, we have like all of the four gospels in like the third century, and he's gonna make much about the fact that that's a full century later than composition. I think by the standard of classical antiquity, you have to admit that's not a huge gap.
Stephen?
I mean, I don't know why just sticks to textual critical method, particularly the textual critical issues, because I very rarely see Muslim apologists that, at least as of late, really touch on it. As you know, Ijaz is wedded to it, but
Lewis, I can barely hear you.
yeah, you can barely hear it now.
How about now?
Do you maybe want to put headphones in like Steven and use the microphone?
Okay. The problem is this thing is synced to my earphones, so these are my phones, so I'm trying to connect them to my laptop.
I can't hear you.
I'm trying. Give me a second. No, unfortunately I can't, so I'm gonna have to try something a little bit different. I don't know why this thing is giving me problems. It's never happened before. You know what? Hold on. Let me exit and then reconnect using my phone. All right?
Okay.
Or
Oh, just me and you, Steven. Whew.
yeah, as far as
I,
the comment.
yeah, sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't know how this is going to record. I've never recorded more than 2 people and people coming in and out, and we will see how this is. Hopefully, it's good enough to post. But
Hopefully. But as far as your question in regards to textual criticism with Ijaz, I haven't really kept the whole up to track with Ijaz a whole lot lately, but I mean, he's so wedded to last I saw, last I read, he's so wedded to it, like it proves Islam true, the Quran true. The problem is, if Muhammad's claims to be prophesied in the Torah and the Injil, and bear in mind this is being revealed in 7th century Arabia to a very specific audience about this. How do you know the alleged claimed prophecies of Muhammad are even from the original text?
yeah, well,
On top of that, the Quran tells Christians and Jews to judge by the scripture. So
yeah, no,
it doesn't.
the Quran. Basically, I'm going to come out with an article on this, probably on my next blog post on alanrural.com, but I'm essentially going to point out that the Muslims have to accept the whole Bible, not just the Torah, the Gospel, but the whole Bible, because there's so overwhelming evidence that, like I tell people, just start reading the Quran and have columns, positive, neutral, negative comments about the Torah and the Gospel, and it's going to fill out with only neutral or positive. So, where?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to try to invite Lewis back in. Hopefully, he has his phone on him. Oh, we'll see how this is.
You know what? I can't get to work on my phone, so I'll just
Okay, I can't. Okay, so you can't use your phone, Lewis?
Yeah, well, you know what? Skype on my mobile is a bit of
Crap.
yeah, so I'm just gonna have to use my laptop for what it's worth. Anyway, what did I miss?
Uh, I don't know. We were just doing classic Islamic dilemma, and I kind of wondered how this video is going to look on. Hopefully, it recorded well.
Alright, fair enough. Anyway, yeah, so we were talking about technical criticism, I think, before I had to log out.
Yeah, we're talking about textual criticism and Islamic apologetics and how Ijaz is the only one, at least as far as you know, that seems to be so wedded to that.
Yeah, he's the last apologist who uses that. I honestly don't know why he persists in it, but
Well, this is mine, but you do make an interesting point. I don't really see that many Muslims bring it up as an argument. I remember it was the hot topic, like 5 to 10 years ago. That was back when barterment was like still hot off the presses.
yeah.
But that's old hat now, and I think a lot of Muslims have realized that there are some flaws in that methodology.
Why has he just stuck to it though? I think he's gone so far in. He's like, I'm too invested in this method to try something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's one possible way of interpreting it. It's a little bit like, the Americans in the Vietnam War, right? We got to send our troops in there because if we stop sending troops, then the ones who already died in there died in vain. So it's like, you gotta keep using textual criticism to criticize the Bible, because if you stop using textual criticism, then we're gonna admit that we were mistaken in using textual criticism to begin with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, you know, and yeah, no, yeah, he's jumped off that. He is the last person on that bandwagon, and I don't know. I mean, he's pretty young. He'll jump off one day. I'm I'm curious. Is he just a convert?
No, as far as I know, he grew up Muslim.
Oh, okay,
In the backstory that I'm not aware of, as far as I know, cradle Muslim.
okay. Well, does anyone have any last words? I think we should maybe wrap it up.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's a whole lot to say there, other than that I don't think any Muslim apologist, whether it's Shabir or Ijaz, has definitively proven using any reasonable historical method that crucifixion could not have happened. I think that even he admits that using secular history, the balance of probability points to Jesus being crucified, and there's a lot of special reading involved to say that that's not the case. It's a form of Judaism, if you really think about it.
Yeah. Well, in particular debate, there was a lot of issues and question involved, and particularly with Ijaz, he was attacking more of this. He was laying out more of like the historical methodologies and trying to critique them, as if it really well, as if it somehow could repudiate the claim that Christ was crucified when it obviously doesn't. And also, Ijaz also claimed to be methodologically neutral, which is very ambiguous and imprecise. Really just trying to escape.
No one's
Trying
neutral,
to,
let alone
yeah,
apologists.
yeah, basically just trying to escape meeting his burden of justification of arguing in the negative, in essence. But I think I think one of the things to take away from this debate is read up very carefully. If you're choosing a topic, read up very carefully the top scholarship and academic literature on it, and be very careful. Well, not be careful, but synthesize your arguments from those sources very carefully and know how to use them correctly. And also keep your opponent also on topic and keep the heat on them. But mainly also have sufficient and warranted and justified reasons for meeting your burden to meet your burden of justification in your presentation on a debate topic.
All right, so I guess that's about it. Thanks for joining me, guys. Hopefully the audio is hopefully the audio is good. This is the first time I've ever tried more than two people, and y- yeah, and you guys have an open invite to come on my YouTube channel for any. If there's something you want to talk, like Lewis, if you want to talk about Mormonism, or Steven, if you want to talk about something else, or
I have a long list of topics that I can potentially talk about. So right now I'm juggling Islam and Mormonism, and I can talk about Mormonism on your podcast. So actually, just gonna put in a little plug here. So I'm sure you guys listen to the Reason and Theology podcast. So on June 2nd, I will be having a roundtable discussion with a Mormon apologist named Jackson Washburn. So you can tune into that, and then we can talk about it on your podcast afterwards as well.
oh, okay, yeah, that would be good because I studied Mormonism back in 2011. I read quite a bit on it, and but I kind of let that go in favor of Islam. So
Like there's 16.3 million Mormons, and there's 1.3 billion Muslims, so it's pretty obvious which one is the bigger challenge on the global stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Mormonism is not really a challenge at this point. Islam primarily is, because it's got more traction.
yeah, and a lot of people who convert don't really know what they're convert. I guess the same with Mormonism. So yeah. Okay, so both of you have a standing invitation, and so does Steven Atkins, by the way. Hopefully he sees this. So hopefully this recorded well. But I guess yeah. Thanks for coming on, and God bless.
God bless. Lala Tov.